that time of the show where we check in on weather with Nebraska Extension Ag Meteorologist and Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Eric Hunt. Eric, we're getting some overnight cold snaps, bit chilly out there some of the mornings and some freezing conditions observed across the state. How much longer can we see the warm weather holding out?
Thanks, Bryce. Looks like we're going to be relatively warm for October for most of next week and probably for a good portion of the rest of the month. Biggest story in this part of the country, though, has been the complete lack of precipitation for the last several weeks across Nebraska and the northern plains and north central U.S. in general. These show precipitation rankings. That basically means we've been record dry or near record dry for everywhere in the state, and similar story for a lot of our neighboring states to the east and to the north of us. This lack of precipitation, warmer temperatures has led to a lot of rapid and drought intensification. So we now have over 80% of the state classified as drought on the U.S. Drought Monitor, and almost 50% of the state is currently classified as severe drought on the U.S. Drought Monitor. All these counties that are shown in red here have at least some portion of been severe drought, and counties in maroon are places where we have 8 consecutive weeks or more with severe drought in that some portion of the county. Soil moisture right now is just basically abysmal, 5th percentile or worse across the entire state and pretty much this entire region of the country at the moment. And the reason we've seen a lot of this is we've had very persistent troughing across the Gulf of Alaska, ridging here across the western portion of the U.S. And until we really significantly break this pattern, we're not going to get a lot of precipitation coming up into the central portion of the U.S. Hopefully this starts breaking at some point in a more regular way as we move into the month of November. We do at least have a chance of precipitation, though, in the next several days, starting in western Nebraska this week. And so hopefully by the time you're watching this in western Nebraska, it is raining or has been raining at least a little bit Friday night into Saturday. And I think as this starts ejecting out into the plains on Monday, we will see at least see chances of precipitation for central and eastern Nebraska as well. Maybe even a little bit of chance of severe weather, something to watch out for. This does not look like a significant amount of precipitation for a lot of the state. Southwestern Nebraska may pick up a ½ inch to an inch. This will be very needed precipitation for the wheat. But again, I do think we are going to look at least a chance of picking up a 1/10 to 1/4 inch of rain for pretty much everybody in the east, maybe closer to ½ inch as we get closer to the Kansas border. This is certainly not going to break the drought, but it'll be the best precipitation a lot of us have seen in some cases several weeks, and at least will help put the wildfire risk down a little bit, which has been a big problem around here of late. So getting that wildfire risk reduced, even if it's for a couple of days, will be pretty big. We go right back to ridging as we get later in the week, so we're probably going to be mostly seeing highs in the 70s this next week. Not necessarily seeing any significantly cold nights coming up the next week either. A lot of places did see some sub-freezing temperatures across the state this last week. Not necessarily seeing that widespread this next week. CPC keeps us relatively warm for the remainder of the month. I do think we're going to have a chance of bringing in some much colder air as we get toward Halloween. A little bit of signal models for that. Nothing too consistent just yet, though. CPC also keeps brings some chances of precipitation for eastern Nebraska and further into the Midwest. I think this is a little optimistic, but we'll see what happens. Soil temperatures right now are mostly in the 50s across the state, and here's our temperature precipitation roundup. Back to you, Bryce.